February 10th, and we'll start with the roll call given by the town clerk.
Representative Adams,
Here.
Bailey,
Here.
Baker, Burrell,
Here.
Casper,
Here.
Kasseri,
Here.
Chase,
Here.
Crockett Hubbard, Dean Shinbrot,
Here.
DeSiller Fleming,
Here.
Fitzgerald,
Here.
Flax,
Here.
Fortner. Fortner. Cindy? No. Foster?
Here.
Frickman?
Here.
David Gauthier?
Here.
Lauren Gauthier?
Here.
Gustafson? Hainline?
Here.
Hanscom?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
Katowski?
Here.
Luck? Representative Luck? Miller? Merritt? Perry? Kristen Powers, I know she's not here, and neither is her husband. Both of them are ill. Richards?
Here.
Jason Rusk?
Here.
Jill Rusk?
Here.
Starkley?
Here. Here.
Stevenson?
Here.
Thomas?
Here.
Washington? Representative Washington? Oh, not here. Watson? Wells?
Here.
Whitehouse?
Here.
Whitney?
Here.
And Sima Ebbin, 28.
Here.
I will ask if Baker's here. Baker? Fortner? Luck?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, that's 29. Miller? Merritt? Perry? Watson? Okay, you have 29, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Clerk McCasher. We do have a quorum. And with that, I would like to ask us to have a moment of silence. And again, just preface, that unfortunately we're still in this pandemic, and I hope we can all keep the folks who have passed, their families and friends, and the folks who are sick and caring for those who are sick in their hearts and minds. So with that, let's have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Representative Starkley, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Flag
of
of
the
the
United States
of America
and to
and
the
to the republic
for which
which it stands,
one
one
nation
nation,
under God, indivisible,
visible,
with
liberty, justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to say we're getting better at this. At this point in time, we have the minutes from our January 13th meeting. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Flax, and who was seconded? Sorry.
Rusk.
Seconded by Jill Rusk, Representative Rusk. Is there any comments or
Just one amendment.
Representative Bailey?
Thank you. Under Juliet 5, for the sale, it's supposed to be, there's two places where it says exterior. It should be in interior.
Is this within the resolution?
This was for last meeting's minutes, right?
Right. You said Julie 5, which is the
Yes.
resolution for the Groton sale.
Yes,
Okay, are you-
it's all the way on the bottom.
I know, right, but what particular part is interior, exterior?
Wherever there's two places where it says exterior, if that, it should be interior.
Is this within the resolution or is this somebody speak?
I'm sorry.
comments?
It was comments. Yeah, a comment. Yes.
At the
Whose
bottom,
comments?
Yeah, mine.
Okay,
Bailey.
yeah, okay, Bailey, and, okay, I got it, thank you.
Okay, hey, thanks.
any other comments or changes, edits?
My hand's up.
Oh,
This is
sorry.
Representative Rusk.
Thank you, Representative Rusk.
Can I ask that under liaison reports that my first name be added since there are now two of us?
Good idea. Which Rusk did it?
Thank you.
All right. So seeing no other hands raised, we have a motion on the floor. And I would add that we have a motion to approve the minutes as edited, as recently revised. It's been made by Representative Flax and seconded by Representative Jill Rusk. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, those meeting minutes are approved by consensus. Thank you. So at this time is the citizens petitions, and this is the portion of the RTM agenda where the RTM welcomes comments from citizens. Each petition presentation should be limited to 4 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentations should be limited to matters pertinent to Groton, and the moderator or members through myself shall ask questions only to clarify the speaker's presentation. Responses may be given by me or the town manager. Citizens should state their name and address for the record. I don't believe we have any citizens that have requested to speak, but
I don't see any in
No,
the queue.
normally we would have someone, but I thought somebody was going to speak. I thought I heard rumor, but maybe I'm wrong. There's no one signed up in the,
no,
no, okay, I can't see I can't see attendees, so.
I can see them, but I believe they're the folks who are going to be speaking on the town field study.
Correct. That
So
is correct.
thank you. I guess at this point in time, we have reception of communications. I would just suggest that I have received communications from Representative Fortner, Representative Powers, Representative Mello Miller, that they would not be here tonight. Representative Washington had something that might take her away, and Representative Cassieri as well, but I see they are both here. So we will hopefully hang on to them for a while. And I did also want to note that there was a referral to finance since our last meeting of the sale of the Colonel Ledyard School property. And the Finance Committee chair has scheduled a meeting for the 22nd of February to address that issue. There was another issue that the town manager had wished to go to committee, and that was a sale of a property on Gold Star Highway. However, that public hearing has not occurred yet, so that's going to wait until after that public hearing occurs. So those are my communications. If anyone has any that they wish to add, please raise your hand. Okay.
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I don't know if you can see my hand in the screen. I don't know. I did hear from both Representative Kristen Powers and Sean Powers. So it's both Powers that would not be attending. And I didn't see Representative Washington, but if she is here, which you say she is, then you have, okay, then you have 30 members present.
Yeah, we have, okay, that's great. I do see Representative Washington. So we have 30 members, and I wasn't looking at your face, so.
That's okay. I don't know if you
Oh,
can
I see
me.
that Representative Flax is also noting that Representative Watson, he did not reach out to me, but he reached out to Representative Flax and will not be attending either, so.
Okay, great.
I think we all, Representative Watson has just had a tragedy in his life, so we all send our
Oh, dear. Yes, we do.
condolences
We're
and
very upset.
thoughts to him and his family.
I believe Representative Baker also emailed earlier. So I think Baker also said she wasn't going to be here.
Okay, I did not receive that, but that's good to know.
There is one other hand up for Representative
So,
Adams.
Representative Adams?
Yeah, Representative Crockett Hubbard had some surgery last week on her hand as she had broken her wrist. So she had told me that more than likely she would not be attending the meeting today.
Thank you for passing that on to us. And we wish her well too. And as well as Representative Kristen and Sean Powers. I know that Kristen works at the hospital, and so we just hope for their good health and speedy recovery. At this time, we are going to entertain a report from our town manager, who I see there, ready to give his report. And then after that, we will hear from Mr. Locken from the Parks and Rec. So thank you.
If it's okay, moderator, also Jon Reiner and Paige Bronk are here to do a quick presentation. And John has to get back to his ZBA meeting, so I'm going to have them go first, if that's all right with you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Should be very brief. And you know, I haven't been sick for 2 years, and now 2 months in a row I'm sick, so please forgive my voice. First, the financials. Preliminary fund balance as of June 30th, 2020 is approximately 27 million, which is 21% of the FYE 2020 general fund adopted budget. The general contingency budget for FYE 2021 was appropriated at 350,000 with a current balance of 348,000. And I do know we're likely to need some of that for the reval. There's been some overages in that, but Cindy will put that together. Capital reserve fund balance as of January 31st, estimated 1.2 million. Just a brief mention of COVID. It's good that the last couple of weeks we've dropped some. I'm hoping we see that trend tomorrow when the numbers come out continue. We'll see what happens with the other strains out there and with the Super Bowl after effect. But you know, if I kept going for a few more weeks dropping, you know, I would hope maybe I could open the facilities back up. We'll just have to see how it goes. Once I get those updated numbers tomorrow, like usual, I will send those out to everybody. Quick mention, the Parks and Rec, Jerry is working with, and the rest of Parks and Rec with the DEI committee to do a event honoring Raheem Carter. And as you know, we have a park named after him. So there's going to be an event on February 22nd at 4 p.m. at the park. So just putting that out there. I'm sure.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
February 22nd at 4 p.m. at the park, at the Raheem Carter Park. And
where's that located, Mr. Manager?
It's in Midway Oval, kind of near our sewer plant there. It's close by, but it's in Midway Oval. And Jerry, if you've got any more details, it's been a while since I've seen it. Jerry, do you have any more details that could pinpoint it more?
You're correct, Mr. Burt. It is right near the entrance to the water pollution control facility on Midway Oval in the Paquonic Bridge neighborhood. And it is an event celebrating Black History Month.
I want to note that Rahid's mother serves on the RTM, Representative Perry, Sheila Perry, and, you know, is Representative Perry here? Madam Clerk?
No, she's not here, but she's under the weather also.
Representative Perry was a student of mine when I taught at Eastern Connecticut State University. And anyway, this sounds like a great event. Thank you for organizing this.
And then to mention, the library has a variety of programs to celebrate Black History Month. And then Betsy is also, the town clerk's also working on a recognition for the town council to hopefully adopt. Just a little quick update on the Nautilus dock. As you know, we ran into a couple of times trying to bid it and it came over. Worked with the Navy on being able to revise the parameters of it, and it's about to go out to bid again. And this time, Public Works feels pretty confident. So hopefully that's going to work out. It just to remind people that is through a 100% grant funded for that project. The governor's proposed FY22 state budget came out today. We look pretty good. The only thing we really lost money in was the municipal stabilization grant, $300,000, but we expected that was for that alliance money, that $300,000 that came in. So we're pretty stable in everything. The only new thing is there's some COVID federal funding for elementary and secondary schools, about 1.5 million, and they haven't told us what all the parameters of that are, but there's some COVID dollars out there coming. But if the governor's budget holds true, then that's pretty good considering everything going on. And then I was asked to report on, there was a question on the legality of the town council changing the amount of fund balance after the RTMs finished their budget process. I did get an opinion from Rich Cody and Eileen Duggan reviewed it. Because the charter vests the authority of the invest that authority in the town council. When setting the tax rate, the council will consider revenues and the amounts held in unassigned fund balance based upon the circumstances present at the time. The rate sent to the RTM when the budget is presented is not the final tax rate. It's a preliminary tax rate. The final rate is set after the RTM makes adjustments, and the council, upon receipt of that adjusted budget, will consider that adjustments need to be made, which may be based upon changed or updated information. And that has been past practice too. So in the past, it's been typically to decrease the or to increase the amount to lower the tax rate.
Mr. Burt, would you just, there have been some questions. Would you just give us a brief primer on what the unassigned fund balance is, please? Just so we're going to be discussing this later on. So I think this would be a good background for everyone here and watching.
It's pretty much how it sounds. It's not dedicated to anything. It's our general fund. It's money we can use pretty much for anything. And of course, as you know, the standard is between 15 and 20%. The auditors have, or not auditors, the bond counts, the bond people have told us they'd like to see at least 20% fund balance.
And that's 20. Can you just say it's 20% of the entire budget?
No, of the hold on a second. It would be yeah, it would have to be, right?
Yeah, it's 20% of the budget.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, it is 20%
Yep.
of the budget, but we have 27% right now.
But yeah, this is a little bit outdated. And then essentially it could be moved to anything you want. It could be, it could be used as fund balance usage as the budget to lower the tax rate. It could be put into the capital projects fund. You can really do anything with it, as long as you want to keep at least that base 20%, there unassigned. That's really for, let's say, the state. Remember a few years ago when the state was looking at maybe cutting back on a lot of stuff to the funding to the towns. That's where you want this. That's like for emergency use like that to get you through until you figure out what to do.
So the town council, just so I understand this, I know Representative Katowski had asked this question, and she can certainly clarify, but just for my own understanding, the town council chose to retain 27% in the unassigned fund balance last year?
I don't remember what it was at the time. It's grown, as we got the new report in. I can't remember what this percent was then. And I do anticipate looking at, I'm at the beginnings of, I'm getting into the budget now. We've done all the department meetings. I'm looking at the CIPs, and I anticipate recommending quite a bit of usage of fund balance for CIP projects that are needed. But we'll see where that shakes out.
Does the fund balance accrue interest while it's being held?
Yeah, it's invested in different things, yes.
Representative Katowski, did you have other questions? Was this a response adequate?
Yeah. Actually, I do.
Representative Katowski, go on.
Wait a minute. Okay. Well, I think my question is, how can the RTM make fiscal decisions based on budget information if we don't know what the intentions are of the town council? The town council goes through their deliberations and they come to a number, then they pass it on to us, and then I and hopefully everybody else makes their decisions based on whether or not there's going to be a tax increase, whether or not we're going to use fund balance, because using fund balance really is a tax increase for the next year. So I don't understand how, when the RTM is through with the budget, the town council can do something other than what they said they were going to do, especially if the RTM is supposed to be the last word on the budget. Thank you.
Well, as you remember, it goes back to set the tax rate to the council, and part of that is deciding how much fund balance to use at the time with the information necessary. And it sounds like a lot of it last year was, well, as you know, the pandemic was hitting, so that kind of changed things up too. You know, that was an extreme circumstance, but a lot of it seems to be a communication issue. And when you hear the minutes from the finance committee, there is some discussion of that and trying to improve the communication. All I can say, it's been past practice, and 2 attorneys have said it is allowed. It definitely is allowed.
Right, but just because it's allowed, I mean,
yeah, I don't have any control over that.
But shouldn't we know their intentions? How can we make decisions?
Well, again, I can't speak for the council. It was an unusual year with the pandemic.
Well, no, I understand it was an unusual year, but my reason for bringing this up repeatedly is to make sure this doesn't happen for 2022.
Yeah, I can't. That's, like I said, it's out of my hands. So
But
we'll have to discuss that with others.
Yeah, Representative Katowski, it sounds like, you know, this is not in Mr. Burt's hands, nor is it. It's up to the prerogative of the town council. So I don't think there's an answer that we can get, either of us can give you tonight, or certainly not I. Representative Gauthier, Laura?
Yes, I just, from Town Manager Burt, you mentioned some reports. Were those from credit rating agencies?
Well, what we do is we get interviewed. We have to put a bunch of information together for the credit rating agencies, yes. And then it's what we've routinely heard from them is they want to see a healthy fund balance of at least 20%.
Mm-hmm. Could you send copies of those reports or responses from those agencies to the RTM?
Yeah, well, it's more of our it's a phone interview with them after we provide information. I don't know what all they say when they put out the report, but yes, I give our rating report.
When they put out opinions for the town of Groton, I've tried looking at them before, but they're behind like a crazy paywall. Does the town of Groton purchase those credit rating opinions?
Well, I've got the preliminary draft. I'm sure Cindy must have the final draft. I review. I know I get a copy of the preliminary.
Okay, if we do have copies, could those be made available to members?
Yeah, I'll ask Cindy for them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I was going to call on Madam Clerk, who had her hand up.
Oh, no, thank you, Madam Moderator. The town manager said exactly right. We get those reports, and actually the town has received accolades over the years for our conservative spending. And we do put some of that information on the town website.
Thank you. I see no more hands, although I saw one briefly, but I guess that has come down. So do you, Mr. Burt, do you know when the library is going to open, or is that just ambiguous at this point?
Open inside until we open the town facilities. So like I said, I'm hoping in a few weeks. Just so anybody else.
Oh, have there been any cost savings since these things have been closed?
Not really, because we're doing curbside. We still have everybody working. And actually, they're doing those deliveries now. I don't know if everybody saw that, but the library is now starting to do actual deliveries.
So,
And then-
I mean,
and they're still
even at
trying to-
other facilities like the senior center, have there been any savings since they've been closed?
Not really, because we still have, everybody's working and doing things right now.
It'd be nice to know what they're doing since there are no people going to these places. At some point, that would probably be a good conversation for us to have. So thank you. Did you say Mr. Reiner had wished to speak?
Yes, and like I said, he's got to get back to the Sealy projects before the ZBA tonight, so he's got to get out of here soon. Yeah, Bill's. Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Jon Reiner, Director of Planning and Development Services. Also with me here tonight is Paige Bronk, our Economic and Community Development Manager. I thank you for giving us a little bit of time to give a brief update. What we wanted to talk a little bit about tonight was specifically a couple months back, some members of the RTM had asked us about the Economic Development Assistance Fund, which is basically a grant program that we run to businesses, new businesses or expanding businesses in town that are looking to expand in town and doing improvements dealing with infrastructure. And this is something that Paige and his staff manage a lot, and he'll talk a little bit about the process that we take, all the steps and how someone applies, and then all of the review that happens through different levels of government, the council and others to move that forward. But this is a very effective economic development tool that we have in town, and we'll also show some of the awards that we've given, as well as the payoff in the sense of the growth and the grand list from all of these projects. So with that said, I will hand it over to Paige, and then very quickly, once we're done talking about the Economic Development Assistance Fund, I did want to give the RTM a quick overview of some things that we'll be bringing to you next month. So,
Mr. Reiner and Mr. Brown, could you put your video on while you're speaking? And also, since I wasn't informed that you had a presentation, and we do have one from Parks, I would just appreciate it if you just take no longer than 10 minutes. Thank you.
All right, there you go. Sorry, I didn't have video enabled. All right, so let's see here. All right, Paige, do you want to talk a little bit about the Economic Development Assistance Fund now?
Sure, I will. As John mentioned, this is a key incentive that we use within the town. A lot of times we'll have investors, developers that come to us and they're not really aware of what's offered. They'll immediately say, hey, how about tax breaks or whatever? And they're unaware that we have a local program that actually works best to serve Groton. So I'd like to cover the overview on this, and we do have some examples that we'll refer to towards the end of the presentation.
We can't see your screen.
Excuse me?
Your screen went away if you were sharing it. You're no longer.
Yeah, we're going to wait to share that screen for a moment until we get to that portion of it.
Yeah, I'll cover some of the generalities and then we'll move to the matrix at the end. So basically, we have an Economic Assistance Fund guideline document, which was developed, actually updated in 2017. It had not been addressed in a number of years. So there was a lot of clarity that was added to the document and also some flexibility. But let me cover some language that's actually extracted from that guideline document. Basically, the Economic Assistance Fund is a publicly funded program consisting of one-time financial assistance reimbursement for public infrastructure improvements or business development expenses associated with business opening, relocation, or expansion in the town of Groton. So in essence, it's a local grant program that helps create a partnership between the town of Groton and a developer to grow property through the form of infrastructure investment. The official intent from that guideline document reads as follows: the town of Groton seeks to support businesses which are opening in, expanding within, or relocating to the town by assisting with costs related to business development or infrastructure. The intent of the fund is to facilitate the development and expansion of businesses that will stimulate the economy by creating and or retaining jobs, increasing tradable sectors of the economy, and or supplying goods or services that meet a specific community need. To this end, the town has established a fund for construction of necessary public infrastructure improvements and some pre-development costs associated with business development and expansion. And again, we use the guidelines that I had previously referenced, which are available to the public. They're on our website. I'm not sure if you have a copy of those. The guidelines do outline some criteria, so it's very much an objective review. There's an application. Staff works with interested parties. We encourage them to be open with their overall needs, but we are critical in how we evaluate these projects in order to preserve the limited fund that we have to allocate towards this. Some of the criteria for the reward include the project must increase the local tax base, the project must create and or retain jobs within the town of Groton, the project must conform to current zoning regulations and the most recent plan of conservation and development. In terms of a summary, I'm almost getting to the matrix in a second, but in terms of a summary, since 2016, we have had significant requests totaling $767,000. Of that request, $285,000 was awarded. So that's roughly 37% of the total ask. And at this point in time, our fund balance is fairly low. It's $134,000. But let me move on to the matrix if we could. I think that it might put some context on what I'm discussing and what the benefits have been to the town. Basically, what you're looking at is a matrix that addresses 6 projects. The column on the left going down shows the project name. And as you go across by row, each project name will address description, address, the pre-improved total assessed value, the post-improved total assessed value, that would be after project completion, the pre-improved annual taxes on that land, and the post-improved annual taxes on the property after project completion, the amount of economic assistance fund that was awarded by the town, and also the last column, the date that it was awarded. In general, for these 6 projects, really the way to best look at how well this serves Groton is to look at a return on investment. If we're going to use public funding, how are we actually going to leverage that to increase our grand list? And probably the most significant column for me is looking at the annual taxes post improvement and compare that to the column next to it, annual taxes pre-improvement. And I will say that the smallest growth in that comparison was an increase of 58%. The majority of the projects are hovering close to 100% in growth. And we actually have 2 projects that increased by 1,000%. So we have good to outstanding return on investment for the projects. At this time, I think I'm going to just read across so you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. I'll go quickly by project name. So the first project, Gabrielle's,
And Mr. Bronk, just so you know, you're just at about 10 minutes. So I'll give you a few more, but please, in the future, I would love to know when presentations are coming my way so I can stagger them.
Madam Moderator, I have this presentation and I will be emailing all the RTM tomorrow and it will be part of the record.
Thank you. But if
Very
you could be
good.
quick about it, that would be great. And then we can move on. Thanks.
Excellent. So I'll just read through the 6 projects. Gabrielle's on Pequannock Road, CrossFit Ingas on Leonard Drive, Grand Wine and Spirits on Route 12, Sift Bake Shop, 5 Water Street, Villages at Bluff Point, 10 Fort Hill Road, and the Standard Apartments at 3 Water Street. As I said, all of those range in an increase between 58% to over 1,000% in terms of return on investment. I guess I'll close there and open for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Representative Washington?
Yes,
Or
thank you.
Okay.
Paige, is there a maximum amount of money that you are allowed to give?
Yes, there is. That's built into the guidelines. Obviously, we are interested in scaling any potential award to the size of the project. So the maximum award would be based on 2 years worth of taxes, specifically 2 years worth of post-improved taxes at project completion. So we actually take the initial application and what they're proposing, work closely with the tax assessor's office to come up with a projected future annual tax payment. And that ends up being part of our measurement in calculating. I will say we rarely consider 2 years worth of taxes. We're usually something much less in value than that.
I noticed that the 3 Water Street was a recent grant. It was the largest one in your list. It was 116,000. And it was completed in December of 2020. I'm just wondering, with the parking problems that exist in Mystic, were those types of externalities taken into account to have increased demand on parking when it's already a super problematic area for parking?
Well, the guidelines do not address parking per se. We actually rely on the town's zoning and parking regulations. So we're not duplicating that process. In this particular project, there's a substantial number of parking spaces that are actually underneath the building. So I do believe that project provides an adequate number of parking for the demand at that location. The last thing I would say, although that was a large project in terms of award, it also paid back the highest amount in terms of return on investment, 1,368% return. And we went from $15,000 in pre-improved taxes to about $225,000 a year. And that'll be year over year for many years to come.
But that's an estimate, isn't it? I mean, it's not being taxed at that right now. It hasn't opened yet.
That is an estimate upon assumed completion. That's correct.
It should also be mentioned that we have not yet awarded or actually paid that amount to the standard apartment owner. That happens once the project is completed and they show us all the receipts and required paperwork showing that everything that the council approved for the award was in fact done, completed, and we check all of that.
Representative Foster?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And I'm sorry if you already went over this. I'm just curious in terms of how this works procedurally. So we, it gets allocated in the budget to feed this fund. And then once a project's selected, who actually approves allocating that money to that specific project? Thank you.
Yes, the town council is the ultimate entity making the award, but prior to the review by the town council, there is a significant process. It begins with applicants start coming to the department and speaking with staff. Once we determine whether or not it's even remotely possible, we'll have conversations. If it appears that it might be possible, they are given an application to complete. We will work back and forth with the applicant to try to tighten it up the best we can to make sure that it's the best application and try to keep costs down for the town. And ultimately, next step goes to the Economic Development Commission. They have a subcommittee that is a part of the review, who will make a recommendation to the full EDC for a vote. Once that vote is taken, it is then forwarded on through the town manager and then ultimately to the town council for a final vote.
Thank you. Representative Gauthier.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just have a question for Mr. Bronk. However, it's related more to the questions and answers that were emailed to us earlier today. Would this be the appropriate time to ask that question? It's not directly related to the economic assistance program.
It's okay with me. That's fine.
I just procedurally, I wanted to make sure it was all right with Madam Moderator. I know she's watching the time.
I don't know what you're going to ask, so I have no idea. Sorry.
It's specifically about provisions in the sale agreements. There was a question about open space, but I had one a little bit more specific about that.
That's fine with me if you want to ask that question.
So, thank you. My question is specifically related to kind of public perks that are pitched along with a lot of these projects. What comes to mind is in my district here, the Sealy School, dog parks, walking trails, etc. Would they be available only to tenants? Would they be available to the surrounding neighborhood? We are losing space up here, both William Sealy and then soon probably at Pleasant Valley, where people regularly take their kids or their pets to recreate. And so my concern is that we're getting pitched these public perks to make it seem more tenable to have these, high density kind of apartment luxury complexes come into our neighborhoods. And then it turns out that we're not actually able to access these things in the same way that Balfour Beatty has these playgrounds in Navy housing, and they all have signs that say it's only for residents. So, I'm just asking specifically in these agreements that you are creating with these developers, are you making sure that if they say and they're telling the public that they are going to provide amenities and access, that's actually getting put into these sale agreements?
So I can actually jump on that one. In the sale agreements, it doesn't necessarily address the open space, but that is the ability for the public to access these park areas. But when the town council is reviewing these proposals, one of the final checks that the council has on these projects is written into the option agreement, is that prior to the applicant bringing the application to the Planning and Zoning Commission, they have to bring a final plan to the town council. And in the instance of the Sealy School, it was shown that there was a dog park that was going to be located on the site that would have access to any town residents, as well as some walking trails around the site. There will be some areas basically behind a fence, that kind of some of the private area, the amenities specifically for the internal of the apartments there. But each one of these is very different, and each one, I think, is negotiated separately, with the council and what those amenities will be. And that's something that will then get approved as part of the Planning and Zoning Commission approval.
Thank you.
Representative Washington. Representative Washington?
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. I just have one last question. Paige, you said there was $134,000 left in the fund balance. Are you looking to add more money to that fund balance this year?
So I can jump on that one also. In years past, we have often included increasing or adding money to this fund through the CIP. We've known that we've had some tough budget years in the past, and our fund balance for this CIP item was adequate. Now, over the past couple of years, we've seen some larger commitments and some great investment in the community. So this year, in the budget process through our CIP, we will be asking for $50,000 to be added to the Economic Development Assistance Fund. We're not making any requests tonight. Tonight, there was, again, as I started with the presentation, I want to say maybe 2 or so months ago, someone on the RTM had asked us about what is the Economic Development Assistance Fund. So that was really the purpose of tonight's presentation, to give an overview of this fund and how successful it's been in getting a great return on investment for the town of Groton.
Thank you. Thank you both. I see no more hands, so I thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. The only other item I just wanted to quickly bring up is next month we will be coming before you. The town council has had public hearings on some of our excess properties, and next month we'll be coming to talk to you about the Gold Star Highway property as well as the Colonel Ledyard property. So we look forward to having those conversations with the RTM.
Oh, as I mentioned, the Finance Committee will be meeting on the 22nd of February, so they'd probably also appreciate your presence there then if they have questions.
Yes, yeah, we will plan on being there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Locken, would you like to give your presentation on the fields, Groton field study?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, Madam Moderator. I guess I was just getting promoted to being able to speak.
I just want to mention that Representative Cassieri stepped away a little while ago. If Madam Clerk could just record that, we have one less person. Thank you. Have it.
Okay, I'm Jerry Locken. I'm the Manager of Recreation Services, and I am the staff person working with the Athletic Fields Task Force. I would like to introduce Frank Norosky, who will introduce the project to the RTM, and then Chad Frost will take it from there.
Good evening, Madam Moderator. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. My name is Frank Norosky. I'm the chairman of the Athletic Fields Task Force. I would like to thank the RTM for asking us to present here tonight. Task force members include various stakeholders from the schools, sport leagues, and other interested groups in Groton. Speaking tonight and presenting is Chad Frost, who's a member of the task force from Kent and Frost Associates. This type of work is Chad's day job and what he does for a living, and his expert analysis over many years has been crucial in defining and understanding the issues and helping the task force create its recommendations. Also from the task force tonight, we have Jerry Locken, who you've spoken to from the Parks and Rec. Vin Vericiano, the Fitch High School Athletic Director, is also here and can respond to questions from the staff as well.
Mr. Norosky, could I just ask you guys who are speaking to turn on your video monitor if you have one, please? Thank you.
Madam, I tried and I can't figure it out. So
okay, that's fine. I'm passing on the GMTV's request.
No, I appreciate that. As you may have seen in the presentation and the videos that were sent to each of you on the RTM, the ATF presented the findings from our year-long study to the Groton Town Council in January. There is a broad consensus that Groton is behind the curve in terms of providing athletic fields, and the Groton Town Council has directed the ATF to move forward by analyzing the following issues: cost for the project, prioritization of the fields, and an analysis into the pros and cons of natural grass versus synthetic field surfaces. Analysis will include costs, initial costs for the fields, maintenance costs, safety issues, and also environmental impacts. So we'll be doing that going forward with direction of the town council. So here's Chad Frost to provide a quick overview of the findings and the proposed solutions to the athletic field shortages, and we'll be happy to answer your questions after that. Chad?
All right, thank you. I'm bringing up my screen. All right. Is that visible?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. All right. There are a lot of slides. I will try to go through them quickly because you all do have them in your packet. So some of them I might skip over pretty quickly, but try to hit the main points and then take questions when we're done. I will just, that's the background on the task force and our charge that Frank just went over. Members, current members and past members of the task force. There is a long history within Groton of looking at athletic fields within the town. Going back as far as 2003 was when they were first kind of started to be studied by the Park and Rec Department, that they were having difficulty finding sufficient suitable space. 2009, there was a comprehensive master plan done. Then also a Sutton Park master plan, followed by the athletic fields needs assessment in 2014. And most importantly, there was a master plan for Merritt property, which of course did not go forward because of the middle school. But at the same time, there was an economic development study for athletic fields. And if we were running tournaments, what that might mean from an economic input. And at that point, it was $2 to $5 million annually in new economic input to the town if we were running what I'll say is small tournaments in the town through the summer. That's our methodology, but I'll skip through that. It's in your packet if you'd like to ask questions about it. What we did do is update the supply and demand needs assessment that was done several years ago. This was updated to meet the current demand as of May 2020 and includes from a supply perspective, the full 2020 school build out, which is also the middle school, which is currently occupied, as well as the elementary schools and new fields associated with them. The supply is shown in the dark colors and the demand is shown in the hatch patterns. So you can see in most cases, baseball, whether it's full size or the youth size, there's significant more demand than there is supply, all the way pretty much across the board currently.
Could I just ask, does this include the city or is this just the town?
It includes all fields that are used by Groton residents. So city, town, we even looked at some of the fields used in Stonington. As far as baseball goes, there are Groton leagues that play in Stonington, so we counted some of those fields as well.
Thank you.
We met with user groups, and basically everybody that plays on the fields, all the youth club teams, the Fitch High School athletics, the travel teams, and the adult leagues that are coming to town. The quick summary is that it's worse than we all thought. Was kind of our group takeaway. We all come at it from a different perspective. My personal perspective is lacrosse. I'm the president of the Groton Mystic Youth Lacrosse Association. So I know the problems with lacrosse. My kids don't play baseball, so I wasn't aware of all the baseball issues. When you pull it all together, it's just worse than we all thought. We have significant equity issues, gender equity, ADA equity, educational access, all the busing that's required for the high school to get to and from practices and games. The access to support facilities, most of our fields don't have all the necessary support facilities to go along with them. One of our takeaways was even our good fields need work, right? There's money that needs to be spent in the near future just to maintain what we have, let alone improving things. And that notably no significant capital investment has been made in the last 20 years. So we built Pequannock Plains fields over 20 years ago. And despite the need over those 20 years, we have not made a significant capital investment. And as we'll show tonight, Groton is significantly behind all of our surrounding towns. Quickly meeting with the baseball fields, or baseball users, their summary was that they basically need 3 full-size baseball fields, an intermediate field, which we don't have in town, which is this 50-70 field. They noted that it's very difficult to get sufficient practice time and game time. They're all in competition with each other and the high school and the other teams to just get on the field. As I mentioned, there's no intermediate field. The one good news is that youth softball appears to be sufficient in fields at the moment. Multi-use fields, all the youth leagues we met with, again, same thing. What we ended up hearing from them was they need 3 full-size multi-use fields. There's a significant need for synthetic turf due to the amount of use and the weather constraints. There's a high demand for lights and, of course, amenities for the full use. And the youth fields, there are a few small youth fields in town that are in definite need of maintenance. The high school, just to give you the idea of the current conditions at the high school, we have the football field, and I'll call it truly a football field. It was designed and built solely as a football field that is too small to be used for soccer or lacrosse. The field surface itself is in need of significant work. It's been in the CIP budget for a number of years. It has not ever been done. And it would make sense to improve it for all uses when that work is done. The track and field was resurfaced not too long ago. However, it will need to be resurfaced again in another 4 to 5 years. One shocker to me was the baseball field. I remember, when it was getting renovated, I was just a citizen. I wasn't really paying too close of attention, but it was a big story about all the improvements happening there. So our assumption was that it's in great shape. What we found out about it was really they spent the money on the amenities, the press box, the bleachers, the dugouts, and the field itself actually needs a good amount of work. So we need to be investing in the field surface itself. The tennis courts are in great condition. They were just resurfaced, the 6 tennis courts, so they're in good condition. And then there is a football practice field that is off behind the track that not too many people know about, but it needs significant work. It's also where all the track and field events take place. Importantly to note, these are all the teams that play at the high school in the fall and in the spring. All the asterisks next to them are the teams that have to leave campus. 13 teams must leave campus for practice and games. And that's a really big deal when you think about educational access. And if a student is needing extra help in a particular class and they need to stay after for just a little bit to see a teacher, they have to make the choice right then and there. Do they stay after and get that little bit of help, or do they catch the bus for practice that's going across town? And that puts our students at a significant disadvantage. Just quickly to look at the surrounding towns so you can know what other towns around us are like. This is Stonington. They have a full-size synthetic multi-use field surrounded by a new track. They've got a full-size baseball, full-size softball, and then 3 full-size multi-use fields as well as tennis courts. Significantly more access to recreational amenities at their campus, and everybody stays on campus. Ledyard, this is an older aerial photograph, but as we all probably heard in the papers, Ledyard just built a brand new multi-purpose synthetic use field. Previously, they had just a football field. So they've increased it to now be a multi-use field surrounded by a brand new track and new amenities. They have 2 full-size baseball fields, a full-size softball field, a practice softball field, and then 2 additional practice fields all on campus. Waterford has a brand new multi-use synthetic turf field surrounded by a track, all new amenities with bleachers on both sides, really the complete package. A full-size baseball field. What's not shown here, it's right in here if you can see my cursor, is over the last winter, they just built a full-size synthetic softball field in this location, and then they have 2 practice facilities down here, again, all on campus. This is East Lyme. Again, synthetic multi-use field for all sports surrounded by the track and all amenities, full-size baseball, full-size softball, and 2 practice facilities as well as track and field amenities. And New London. New London has 2 multi-use synthetic turf fields, the main championship field surrounded by the track and all the amenities that go along with it. And then interestingly enough, the high school in New London is adjacent to a city park, and the park is what actually houses the baseball field and the softball field and a practice field. And we think that could kind of work here in Groton as well, where we occupy or use land directly adjacent to the high school. To give you an idea of what the current facilities look like at the high school, this is the field house. This was built in the 1960s before Fitch had any female sports, right? It was built only for men. There is only a men's locker room. This is the gang shower that's there. the coaches' offices, the team room, and the training room. There are no female facilities at the field house. That's just shocking to us. 60 years later, there's not even 2 locker rooms. These are the public restrooms, if you've seen them. I'm all for team spirit and community pride, but I think this might have gone a little bit too long and too far. This is the public restroom. This is the men's room. When we're standing outside in the public area, when the door opens, this is the view in. You can see anybody and everybody in there walking by. And then just to note down in the corner, at the brand new fields that were just built at the middle school, they were built to accommodate the middle school, which is great. But the necessary amenities didn't necessarily go along with it. And the bathrooms there is a new porta potty. These are our neighboring towns. East Lyme, New London, Ledyard, Stonington, all very nice facilities up to current codes. This is Fitch's press box and our surrounding towns' press boxes. The bleachers at Fitch, and there are so many, I do this for a living, the amount of code violations and safety violations. These bleachers are 60 years old. They do not meet any current requirements. And it's amazing that they still exist like this. These are our neighboring facilities, fully ADA compliant, all the safety features, the blocking, that's all required. And then I will note, this is the Fitch baseball, the new bleachers that were built at Fitch, and they are full ADA compliant and full safety compliant. So we do have one nice set at Fitch, but we need significant improvements. So the high school needs was basically that the main field should be renovated to be a multi-use, ideally synthetic turf with complete amenities and new track and field house and storage. Additionally, they need 2 to 3 additional practice fields, ideally with one of them being synthetic with lights and bleachers. A softball field that needs to be on campus, 2 additional tennis courts. This is necessary because tennis, both men's and women's now play in the same season. They only currently have 6 courts, and to have to share them all at the same time right after school is very complicated. 2 additional courts would meet that need. As I mentioned, the baseball field renovations, and then access to all amenities, dirt for all fields. We heard a lot of stories where a field might be open during the summer, but because none of the amenities, the bathrooms per se, are directly related, they're all within a school. The school is closed and locked for the summer. They might have an event there and the refs have nowhere to go to the bathroom for the entire day. So we summarized the identified needs as a task force. We kind of tried to boil what we heard from all the different user groups down. And what we heard were additional lights in restrooms, storage, scoreboard, bleachers at the new middle school field. So really all the amenities that should go with the field to get added. Upgrade Fitch High School, the multi-use field to a full multi-use sports for all sports, new track, and upgrade all amenities. Renovate the Fitch baseball playing surface, 4 full-size multi-use fields, ideally synthetic, 2 full-size baseball fields, 1 intermediate-sized baseball field, 2 full softball fields, and 2 tennis courts. So that's our summary of all the fields that are needed currently right now. I will bring up synthetic turf considerations. We know that when we talked to all the user groups, synthetic turf was requested by pretty much everybody. Everybody was asking for it. Even baseball is saying where they're traveling, they're now they're playing on synthetic turf, and they would love to have it if it's possible. We did receive a letter, and I believe the RTM has gotten it as well, from the Groton Conservation Advocates with some concerns about crumb rubber and the environmental concerns of adding plastic to the environment. We take that very seriously, and we're going to look into it. We will note that the Connecticut Department of Health has a full webpage devoted to it on their website, and I've listed the website here for you. It's in your notes. They have studied it. They reference all sorts of studies. At current, they don't have any concerns. There are no restrictions for synthetic use fields within Connecticut on schools. Interestingly enough, there are restrictions on natural turf fields as far as chemicals, pesticides, and herbicides that are used. We understand there are concerns, and we're happy to study it further. But right now, I would definitely point you to the Connecticut Department of Health to look into their studies as well. As Frank mentioned at the beginning, the town council has requested that we do a greater analysis of the use of synthetic turf and look into the concerns. And we're committed to further exploring the issues, and we'll report back. And I'll just note that our primary rationale for really the synthetic use, it's not because anybody's pushing it. It's because the users were asking it for us. And there's two main reasons. One is that you can use the synthetic turf field significantly more than you can a natural grass field because of the amount of time a natural grass field needs to rest. So if we were to not use synthetic turf fields, we'd need a third more fields. So that means if we got rid of one, or if we got rid of two, we'd need to add a whole nother field. And space is going to be critical for that. And most importantly is the all-weather use is critical for all sports and all users. Two quick antidotes is that there was a couple years back, we had a very wet spring, right? All high school sports, field sports are played in either the fall or the spring, which is typically wet. There was a spring that was really wet. The field hockey team at that point had all of their games at Pequannock Plains, which is our nicest fields, nicest natural grass fields in town. They didn't have a single home game their entire season because the field was too wet to play during all of their games. And that's just a crazy thing. Beautiful field, but the way we maintain it is we have to close it if it's too wet. And so for a team to not have a single home game and have to reschedule them on last minute notice is definitely a disadvantage. And also another one is our marching band. We have an awesome marching band at the high school. They've won all sorts of competitions. A year or two ago, they were asked to host, I believe it's the regionals or New England's at Fitch High School because they were winning so many competitions. They were asked to host. And then they weren't allowed to host because Fitch is a grass field and they were required to hold a competition. It's required to be on a synthetic use field. So it really is critical from a weather perspective and a use perspective, in certain cases, to have synthetic turf. But like I said, we will be looking into it and trying to balance the pros and the cons. Our proposed solutions at the high school, I'm not going to go through the amenities. They are there on the right. You can read them, but basically, as I mentioned, renovate the track and field into a full-size multi-use field, 2 full-size multi-use practice fields, a softball field on campus, 2 new tennis courts, and renovate the baseball field. And we have briefly looked at it, and it does all fit. We have to get creative with how we do things, but it is all possible to get on the campus. Then what we'd like to do is Sutton Park is right down the hill. We think it'd be a great ancillary athletic complex, just as I mentioned in New London, where there's a town park or city park right next to the high school, and they play some of their games and practices there. If we were to utilize Sutton Park and build a full-size baseball field with lights, as well as a full-size softball field down there, then the high schoolers will be able to basically walk down the hill to practice, to attend practice and games. Again, from spectators, students can come down to cheer and things as well. And it basically becomes a larger portion of the practice of the high school and also usable for all of the rest of the public when the high school is not on it. The other proposed solution then is at Claude Chester property. We think this is a great location when the school is closed and the school comes down to locate 2 full-size multi-use fields as well as an intermediate baseball field. Claude Chester property would be basically become an extension of Pequannock Plains. You could kind of blend those 2 properties together, have a total of 5 fields and sufficient parking and amenities to host tournaments. And as was demonstrated a few years ago, the economic impact from hosting tournaments is pretty significant. And since we need fields anyways, if we're able to build them in a way that can host tournaments, we can then generate more economic impact for the town. And then just as note, the Little League Baseball at the community center just needs some fields improvements as well as some amenities. And then we are noting that we do know we're having to remove a couple of fields at Sutton Park, notably a short adult softball field and a youth softball field. However, right now the assessment looks like even with those 2 losses, we will meet the needs in the future. So this is that same bar chart I showed at the beginning. However, it's now with the supply as proposed. So if we built all the facilities that we're proposing, we now have a supply that exceeds the demand or meets the demand. And again, that's the proposed over the existing supply and demand charts. So just wrapping up, our next steps, what we're trying to do is let everybody know what we've been doing for the last year, get council, school board, RTM endorsements and support. The Park and Rec Department is putting in a CIP request for field designs and cost estimates for next year's budget, which would continue this forward so we can really start to analyze what's really needed. And we will continue to analyze and explore all the different field types, options, and concerns. And then just in closing, doing nothing isn't really an option. We've found that most of our fields, that we haven't invested in 20 years, they need investment now just to remain, safe. With a minor, improvement from that, we think we can get safe, equitable fields that then also provide economic value. We know it's more upfront cost, but we think there's a greater bang down the road. And really what we're all here to push to is the trifecta, right? To live here, to work here, and play here. And really that really does a great thing for providing an improved quality of life. And with that, wraps up the presentation. So we're happy to take questions. Now we'll try to end my slideshow.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. That was great. I do see some hands up. So let's see, Representative Rusk.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I wanted to say thank you for the presentation, but I do have a couple questions. Is there concern about flooding at Claude Chester since there's so much flooding at Pequannock Plains? Do you have a priority of what fields you want first, or what fields would be needed first? Because this isn't something that can probably be funded all at one time. And then are there other sources of funding outside of tax dollars? Are there any grants that we can apply for to put in some of these fields? Thank you.
Madam Moderator, I think I might be able to respond to that.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there were a couple of questions in there. Flooding at Claude Chester Fields, that being a concern. I would expect that whatever projects are built are going to be properly engineered and will be constructed in ways to alleviate any of that kind of flooding. We don't have any particular plans right now. That's way in the future for us. We don't have that answer. In terms of prioritization, that is something that the town council has asked us to look into. We will be coming up with some type of a priority for the fields and suggesting that. I will say that consensus from the Athletic Fields Task Force at this time is that there is a great hope that this can be done as a single project where all of these things get addressed. There is some concern that if you do it piecemeal, that's kind of the way that we've handled it to the point where we are right now, and it's got us in the situation we're in. So it hasn't proven to be a very effective way of building fields in town piecemeal. And then the final question, I think, was on funding. And again, funding is still a little bit early to discuss. We don't even know the amount that we're going to go out and need to do all of this work. But we do have significant interest from the state legislators, both of our representatives and our state senator, in helping the town get some state funding to help accomplish the projects.
Thank
Representative Jones? Oh, Representative Rusk, was that adequate?
I just wanted to say thank you.
Representative Jones?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you for the presentation. So I have two questions. The first related to, you had talked about that the marching band tournament couldn't be held here in Groton because we didn't have a synthetic field. Has this requirement shown up in any sports requirements for other teams coming here to play? That you don't have the field, they can't come here?
I can try to take that, Jerry. Not necessarily from sports particularly, from a tournament, yes. We can't host CIC tournaments and things like that because of the amount of use for the field, right? It would overcome a natural grass facility, and we only have the one field, and then the amenities go along with that. But from a regular, play, yes, they can come and play on natural grass. There's no requirement that they can't. The problem has been that the football field is only used for football. So all other field sports go down to play at Pequannock Plains. And as I said, routinely that gets too wet and needs to have rest in between. And routinely both high school and youth games are being canceled at the last minute because that field's just too wet. So it's not that they won't come and play, it's that we have to reschedule at the last minute is the bigger problem.
Okay. And thank you. And the second question has to do, looking through some of the material, it was mentioned about recycling the synthetic fields when they sort of hit their natural end. And it didn't really look like that was sort of covered. I just didn't know if you had some thoughts on, you know, you want to look at this over the 20-year period that a field might be. Are you going to be addressing what you do with this stuff when it has reached its natural end?
I think that's a great thing to do. Yes, absolutely. I mean, there were portions of that in previous presentations. We tried to streamline a little bit tonight. We want to look into all the concerns raised about synthetic turf and figure out what's best. And I definitely think recycling is part of that discussion as to what does happen with it at the end of the life. I will note that they are made out of recycled material, most of them, you know, but I do like the suggestion that we figure out or put in a requirement, if one's put in, that we know how to properly dispose of it at the end of life.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Representative Chase.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So I understand the need for the fields. I totally understand that, but I'm a little stuck on the synthetic turf. And please correct me if I'm wrong. So I looked up to see what synthetic turfs are made of, and it said nylon, polypropylene, or polyethylene. So then I had to Google what those were made of, and they're plastic. So we just went through a whole process of trying to rid Groton of plastic. So why would we put this on the, I understand that it's more durable than grass. I get that, but why would we put plastic all over the grounds?
Well, I would agree that, I mean, my profession, we're very environmentally conscious. We do low impact design all the time. And I commend Groton on the plastics ordinance as well. So it's not something that we would take lightly to just do. It is right now the preferred approach, but I would say that it needs further study, right? That when we talk to all the user groups, no one brought up a concern either from a health perspective or an environmental perspective. It was really once we started to bring this out to the public and announce it was when we started hearing those concerns for the first time. And so we think they're valid and we need to look into it. And so that's all we're saying. We're not saying what it should be exactly. We're just saying this is the recommendation at this moment. And we'll continue to look at it. And we don't want to make too much of a judgment at this point, right? We don't want to pick our tile for the kitchen when we're designing a house, you know, before we've designed the house. So we don't want to put the cart too far before the horse and get too deep in the weeds, but we want to make sure we're being environmentally and health conscious at the same time.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Representative Washington.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you, Chad and Jerry, for your presentation. And I do agree with you that doing nothing is not an option. My only question is about this marching band and the synthetic turf. Is that something new? Because I volunteered at a marching band competition up at the high school about 3 years ago. So is that a new requirement that they can't march on natural grass?
I can get you a better answer. I don't have any kids in the marching band. I just know it was relayed to us, and it might be the size of the competition. It might be that, you know, a regional or a local competition can still be held, and maybe that's what they do host there. But I know there was a large event, whether it was New England or larger than that, that they were asked to host, and everybody was excited to have them host, and they couldn't do it because a requirement was that they had to have synthetic turf. But I can find out exactly what that was and get back to you.
Thank you. And one last question. Are we able to use the fields at Washington Park for any of our high school events?
Yes, is the short answer. And those are included in our study and our analysis. They are, as far as how much time we're allowed to use them, we don't get that much time. Most of our teams don't get that much time because they are obviously city assets and they're used by city athletics as well as EB, and even Avery Point uses them as well. So we did count them in the study, but they are fully occupied as well.
Thank you. Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. I do want to align my comments with Representative Washington. I agree that, and your comments as well, saying that doing nothing is definitely not an option. And I just wanted to ask, in regards to the question about synthetic fields versus natural, I'm on the understanding that we already have some synthetic fields in use in the town. Is that correct, at Pequannock Plains or at the middle school?
The first one the town's ever had was just built at the middle school, correct? Yeah, it's had its first season or first half season of use.
And what has the experience been there?
Well, it's been the experience has been COVID. It's been an interesting beginning, but I know the high school used it extensively. They were a little bit fortunate because the middle school was just opening. Due to COVID, the middle school didn't have really any sports teams going on. The high school did, and so the high school was able to use it. However, it was definitely a scheduling issue. You know, you'd have boys JV use it one day, boys varsity use it the next day, girls JV one day, so it was great to have. I do not want to discount that at all. The high school utilized it significantly, but there's not a scoreboard there. There's no bathrooms there. There's some small bleachers there, but it was designed as it should have been as a middle school field. They couldn't design it because of the requirements of the state and Board of Ed and how funding happens. It couldn't be designed as a high school complex. So there are some restrictions of that. But as far as use goes, when the high school was able to use it, I think it was phenomenal.
Great, thank you very much. And I just also wanted to say that I'm glad to hear that the presentation did well to highlight the fact of the ADA as a compliance as a priority for the future of the fields going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Richards.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to note that I did go and speak at the town council with a citizen's petition regarding this, saying that I was all for really going forward with some major improvements for our fields, and also that I did have some very strong concerns about the synthetic turf as a parent and an RTM member, as far as, what is the real possibility of having such a thing recycled, and they are needed to be taken out and replaced every 10 years or so. And that's a lot of plastic. And it does crumble. It does get into, the microplastics do get into the water system and things like that. And there is some concern of off-gassing and other contaminants, although I understand that the studies on that are not conclusive and that there aren't a lot of them. So that's still something that's being investigated. So I just wanted to share that with the members of the RTM. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Richards. Representative Cassieri.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I understand that synthetic turf has an issue of overheating or getting too hot in the summer. In your research, have you found that it's a big issue in communities that are surrounding us?
In communities that are surrounding us directly, no, I haven't heard of anybody actually having an issue with it. Now I do know, yes, we design both. In my professional life, I design both natural turf and synthetic turf fields. And it is definitely known that synthetic turf fields does absorb more heat and is a hotter surface to play on in the height of the summer. And there are multiple different ways of kind of dealing with that. We either restrict the use if need be. There are cooling things you can put on it. And some towns, not really in New England, but down in the South, will go as far as irrigating it to cool it off. In New England, it hasn't been that big of an issue, honestly. And I will say from a high school sports perspective, all those high school sports and even youth sports for the most part that use the fields all play in spring and fall during the cooler seasons and not in July or August. Now I do know I've had kids that played on travel teams in July and August, and they have played on synthetic turf fields. And you're aware of it. You want to make sure you monitor kids and watch things because it's going to be a hotter surface to play on. Yale, for instance, when we go down to play at Yale, they have several synthetic turf fields. They play on them all day long. But you just you're aware is what I would say. And so, yes, we know that heat can be an issue. And it's one of those things we need to, I guess, continue to have a larger discussion with the public on to make sure everybody understands it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see no more hands raised. So I want to just thank you both for coming and speaking with us tonight. That was very informative, and we'll look forward to learning more.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norosky.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for having us.
At this time, I don't believe that Superintendent Austin is here or anyone from the Board of Ed. So I don't believe we have a report of the Superintendent of Schools, but we do have liaison reports. And I'll just ask Representative Chase, was there a Town Council RTM Board of Ed City of Groton liaison meeting?
There was not a meeting this month. They're in the middle of their budget workshops, so they canceled the meeting.
That's right. That meeting was canceled and replaced with the RTM Board of Ed Town Council meeting, to which you were all invited, but unfortunately was at the same time as Finance Committee. Representative Cassieri, do you have a Town Council report, liaison report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. The Town Council met virtually for the regular monthly Town Council meeting on February 2nd at 6:30 p.m. The Council received an abundance of citizens' petitions during this meeting. The Council passed 2019-4579 Excess Property Redevelopment 517-529 Gold Star Highway authorization for sale and refer to RTM. The Town Council granted the Town Manager to sign an option to purchase agreement, hereby recommends the sale and the referral of the 517 and 529 Gold Star Highway properties to the RTM. 2020-788 Colonel Ledyard School property authorization for sale and refer to RTM was passed. The Town Council authorized the Town Manager to sign an option to purchase agreement to recommend the sale and referral of the former Colonel Ledyard School property to the RTM for approval. 2020-856 Pratt Building Survey was passed by the Council. The Town Council authorized the Town Manager to enter into an agreement with Great Blue to conduct a survey to determine the need for recreational flexible space and a theater in the Pratt Building. This will be funded as follows: $6,750 from Parks and Rec budget and $6,750 from the OPDS Economic Development Market Budget account. 2020-590 Board Commission member recognition was sent back to committee. The next regular council meeting is scheduled for March 2nd at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you. That was terrific. I just want to note that we are looking for, I am looking for a representative who would like to take on the role of liaison to the Board of Ed. So again, anyone who's interested in that, please contact me after the meeting by email. Representative Wells, did you have a golf advisory committee meeting?
Yes, I do. The cost continues to do well. While December and January revenues were down 7% over last year, they were up 29% over the prior four-year average for that period. Fiscal year to date is up 20% over the prior year and 59% up over the prior four-year average. It's anticipated the pandemic-induced increase will persist through the coming season, and perhaps a new interest in golf may result in a 3 or 4 year sustained increase, something like the 1997 Tiger Woods bounce. Some of the increase reflects over the 4 years. It reflects the string of terrible weekend weather 2 years ago that wiped out the fund balance that had accumulated over a 10-year period. So in addition to restoring that literal rainy weekend fund, dealing with deferred maintenance, there's equipment that needs replacing, such as a $74,000 turf putter to replace one for which parts are no longer available. And also, the COVID one person, one per cart restriction has increased maintenance costs for no increase in revenue, as golfers paying the cart fee are no longer sharing carts. The course is in the process of renewing its 3-year contract with the Connecticut PGA to host a senior PGA tournament. This brings visitors and commerce to the town. Last year, the court saw an influx of Gauthier from Massachusetts when courses there were closed. In this vein, we are using online registrations system to collect zip codes in order to learn where the golfers are coming from and possibly direct advertising, target advertising in those areas. Earlier this evening, the board met in joint session with the Parks and Recreation Commission to present the proposed 2020 course rates. The board proposed that after reviewing a 10-year history of rates, I quote, and a percentage of change over that time, the board recommends that only adult, associate, and associate plus senior pass holders should be increased by 3%. Daily fees at Shanticosset are priced at the higher end of the range among competing courses, and the board recommended that daily fees not be increased to remain competitive with other courses. The commission went along with those rates, and they will go to the town council for the final decision. Let's see, where are we? Oh, yes, the board now has 2 resident vacancies as well as the perennially vacant non-resident position to be filled. So anyone who's not an RTM or a member who might be interested, there's an opening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Wells. Representative Rusk, do you have a liaison report for the Economic Advisory Commission?
I do, thank you. The Town of Groton Economic Development Commission met on February 4th. Business discussed was the business forum. There was a business forum that was held on January 11th to provide information on local delivery options for restaurants called Shoreline Menus. The 2021 EDC goals and annual reports were approved and sent to the town council. For the 2021 goals, the Groton EDC recognizes that the business community continues to face many challenges in the 2021 year due to the current pandemic. With that in mind, they remain focused on being the go-to resource to assist them. The EDC must be proactive and look to the post-pandemic economy and what they can do to provide resources to businesses moving forward. Their 4 main goals were to restart quarterly forums, to continue to support and promote the OPDS efforts to attract and expand the business base in the area, to work with state and local partners to provide information on programs available to promote economic growth, and to encourage development of needed housing to attract local workers to also reside within the town. The EDC also reviewed the properties of 0 Flanders Road, which is a 14-acre parcel just south of I-95. It's zoned industrial mixed use, it's forested, and it's not served by water or sewer. They also looked at 1208 Aquanic Road, which is a parcel that's just under 1 acre. It's zoned as mixed use village center. It's near the entrance of Groton Utilities. Both were approved. The EDC approved that both of these properties were excess town-owned properties and appropriate for reuse or sale. And that got sent over to the town council. The EDC encouraged businesses to apply for the COVID relief fund. Wayfaring signs should be starting in spring 2021, with the first sign to be placed at Route 1 and Newtown Road. The town council has approved the sale agreement for Colonel Ledyard School, and construction for Trident Place, which is the former Sealy School, will begin in early 2021. And the first rounds of interviews were completed for the Pleasant Valley School. Unemployment has lowered to 7.5% in Groton, which is the first time in almost a year that we matched the state average. Prior to that, we'd been higher. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Rusk. That was very informative. So we're going to move on. I believe at this point we have a report. We had a meeting of the Community Development and Services. Chair Luck, you have a report to read from that meeting?
Yes, I do. Representative Town Meeting Community Development and Services Committee was Thursday, January 28th at 6 p.m. Chair Lisa Luck, Representatives Robert Bailey, Jean Baker, Lauren Gauthier, and Autumn Handsome were in attendance. I called the meeting to order, excuse me, at 6:03 p.m. All members were present. The unfinished business, the 2020-896-2 criteria for selection of student liaisons for the RTM. Representatives Kate Richards and Karen Adams from the Rules and Procedures Committee also attended. Representative Richards pointed out that according to the RTM rule that the person must reside in the town. And discussion continued with how to get information about positions to prospective liaisons, including in the form of a flyer, then discussion of what additional criteria for selecting prospective liaisons. The committee then came up with a timeline to select them. Chair Luck, along with Representative Hanscom, will come up with wording for a flyer. Adjournment was Representative Baker made a motion, seconded by Representative Hanscom to adjourn the meeting at 6:29 p.m. Vote was all in favor, submitted by myself. I'll move to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Was that? I'm sorry.
Adams.
Oh, thank you. We have a motion made by Representative Luck and seconded by Representative Adams to approve the meeting minutes of the Community Development and Services Committee on January 28th. Are there any comments on those minutes?
Betsy's raising her hand.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I
Clerk?
just wanted to let you know that you have 29 members because Representative Washington stepped away.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you. Are there any, I see no comments, no hands raised with respect to that. So all in favor of approving the minutes of the Community Development and Services Committee, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Those minutes are approved. Thank you. It doesn't sound like there was, that you have a motion to put on the floor. Is that correct? You're going to meet again?
Yes.
As a committee?
Yes, one more time.
Okay. I would, encourage folks who want to have a voice in this to attend that meeting. You are all allowed to attend meetings of any committee. If you're not on that committee, you simply are not able to vote. But usually the chair will allow you to voice an opinion. So again, I would encourage the Rules Committee to attend that if they can as well, to act as a resource. Anyway, thank you for continuing to work on this.
All right. You're welcome.
All right. The next item on our agenda is Finance Committee, and I believe Chair Washington may have stepped away. I'm not quite sure. Did she ask Representative Chase to read, or who did she imbue someone with the ability to read the minutes? I guess I could if no one else.
She did ask me to.
Okay, thank you. Representative Chase, would you like to read those minutes of the last meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
The Representative Town Meeting Finance Committee met on Wednesday, February 3rd. Those in attendance was Chair Beverly Washington, Member Clarence Casper, Kathy Chase, Bruce Flax, Chase Foster, Roseanne Katowski, and Sean Powers. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. by Chair Beverly Washington. Roll call in attendance were Representatives Chase Foster, Kathy Chase, Roseanne Katowski, Bruce Flax, Sean Powers, and Clarence Casper. Also in attendance were Town Manager John Burt, Town Clerk Betsy McCousher, Director of Finance Cindy Landry, Representative Lauren Gauthier, and Director of Parks and Recreation Mark Berry. There was no unfinished business, and new business was 2020-615-2 Community Connectivity Program Grant for $344,388. Discussion, Director of Parks and Recreation Berry, stated that the community connectivity grant is designed to improve infrastructure, to improve accommodations to bicycles and pedestrians in suburban and rural communities. The reason the town submitted application for this competitive grant was because it met a couple of goals in their strategic plan. It addressed the need in the 2020 community needs assessment that identified the need to increase trail and pathway connectivity. This will help increase outdoor physical activity. Director Barry explained the details of the proposed trail that the grant would fund. He explained that a bike path and pedestrian walkway would be created along with existing old trolley line from Knoxville Court along Midway Oval through Sutton Park and from Industrial Drive to Fort Hill Road. He stated that employees working in the Public Works Department would be performing a lot of the work. By doing this, it saves the town money. Public Works provided a lot of technical assistance coming up with the design and estimates of cost. A lot of the work has already gone into this project, but still need more detailed plans and need to put out an RFP for contract management. This project should not cost the town any money. We do not have to match this grant. Maintenance will be when markings on the road fade and need to be redone in signage. Minimal maintenance required. Lighting is included in the grant application. There will also be more solar lighting around the bike path in Sutton Park. The pathway is made of pavement. Estimate time of completion is 2022. Representative Flax made a motion to recommend acceptance of item 2020-615-2 Community Connectivity Program Grant, seconded by Representative Chase. The motion was adopted and recommended to the RTM by a unanimous vote. 2021-39 RTM Power of Initiative to create a policy for unassigned fund balance. Chair Washington made a motion to accept the resolution as read, seconded by Representative Flax. Discussion. Representative Lauren Gauthier stated that this referral is basically trying to encourage the RTM to create a policy that funds are not just being unused in the fund balance account. The town might benefit from having a formal policy. Town Manager Burt explained the town attorney's opinion. RTM cannot force the town council to do anything with the fund balance. RTM cannot require specifics or do anything that limits the town council's ability according to the charter. RTM does not have the power to dictate to the town council how unassigned fund balance should be used. RTM does not have the power under the charter. RTM can only make suggestions. It was understood by committee members that the resolution as written would violate the town charter because the laws governing how the town budget is adopted and the tax rate is adopted can't be changed without a charter revision. Town Manager Burt suggested the RTM form a joint committee with the town council. Director of Finance Landry stated that the unassigned fund balance is larger now than in many years. The reason the fund balance increased over the years is revenue other than taxes. It wasn't tax revenue that pushed it up. There was an increase in impact aid 2 years in a row. The fund balance policy was changed a few years ago because of the school projects and knowing that the town was going to the rating agency. The unassigned fund balance is one of the things the rating agency specifically looks at whether your fund balance is stable. They look at how many times you had to dip into it over the years. Current fund balance is 20.8%. Always a debate about how much fund balance you should have. The bond agency likes it to be 20%. Town Manager Burt is planning to recommend that the town council use more fund balance this year. Remember, the tax rate sent to the RTM is not the final tax rate. RTM makes adjustments to the budget. The final tax rate is made after the town council sees the adjustments. Representative Flax stated that the RTM is the financial watchdog of the town through the charter. When there is an expenditure over $10,000, it goes to the RTM for approval. The town council can change the mill rate after the RTM is done with the budget. This is in the charter. Is it right that the town council can increase the tax rate after RTM is done with the budget? He is in favor of a committee being formed in regard to unassigned fund balance. Representative Katowski stated that the RTM should know what the town council's intention is in using fund balance. This would help the RTM make fiscally minded decisions. Representative Foster made a motion to amend the resolution as follows. The town council shall develop a specific policy for the management of the unassigned fund balance. The motion was seconded by Representative Flax. All in favor of the motion were Representatives Washington, Flax, Katowski, Casper, Foster, and Chase. None opposed, one abstention. Representative Sean Powers. Representative Flax made a motion that a committee be formed with the existing finance committee of the RTM and whoever else the moderator deems appropriate to add to the RTM committee to meet with representatives from the town council to discuss the use of fund balance to use after the budget is approved by the RTM. The motion seconded by Representative Chase and adopted for a recommendation to the RTM by unanimous vote. A request was made by Representative Powers to send all legal opinion documents with the minutes. Adjournment. Motion to adjourn made by Representative Flax, seconded by Representative Powers. Motion passed unanimously. Adjourned at 7:46 p.m. Minutes submitted by Chairperson Washington.
Thank you, Representative Chase, for reading those. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, I make a motion to accept these minutes as read.
Is there a second?
Second,
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Representative Flax.
Flax, thank you. We have a motion to accept the minutes of the February 3rd Finance Committee meeting made by Representative Chase and seconded by Representative Flax. Are there any comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting these of approving these minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. I believe there are 29 members, 29-0. Thank you. So is there a motion, Representative Chase, can you make a motion for that Community Connectivity Program Grant 2020-615-2?
Yes, I make a motion to, for 2020-615-2 Community Connectivity Program Grant. I so moved for $344,388. I so moved.
Madam Clerk, should we read the whole resolution there? Resolution authorizing the town manager. Does that all need to be read? To execute all grant documents and accept grant funding for the Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant?
Yes, you do have to for a grant. Sorry. It probably can read the resolve that has pretty much everything in it.
Okay. Can Representative Chase, do you want to read that if you have it, or I can if you don't have it?
Is that last paragraph that just starts with resolved?
Yes, please.
Sure, I can do that. Be it resolved that Town Manager John Burt or his designee is authorized to execute all grant documents and accept grant funding in the amount of $344,388 from the State of Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant. I so move.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second, Luck.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor made by Representative Chase and seconded by Representative Luck to authorize the town manager to execute all grant documents and accept grant funding for the Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant in the amount of $344,388. Is there any discussion on this?
Yes, please.
Representative Bailey?
Yes, thank you very much. I have a question for Mr. Burt. The part of the path that goes from Sutton Park into Midway Oval goes between two units, unit 49 and 53. Is there like an established pathway there already?
I believe Mark has told me there's an easement there.
Okay, all right. Hey, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Discussion? All right, seeing none, we do have a motion on the floor, which is item 2020-615 Community Connectivity Program Grant, which is resolved that the town manager or his designee is authorized to execute all grant documents and accept grant funding in the amount of $344,388 from the State of Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant. It was made by Representative Chase and seconded by Representative Luck. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. Now, I'm confused if there's another motion that's going to be made from these minutes, or if there's a request of me to kind of follow up on this. I will just give you my thoughts on this, which is that I am not able to compel the town council to form a committee with the RTM. I've actually had discussions with the mayor about the civilian oversight and research committee that I formed, and that did not happen as a result of those conversations. So I can certainly entertain those discussions, and I would like to consider whether to make a new committee or just refer this to the finance committee to address. Representative Gauthier?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm not on the finance committee, but this was a part of a proposal that I brought forward, and I just want to make a clarification. There were 2 motions and 2 votes, one to forward the recommendation to the full body of the RTM, to have the RTM recommend to the council to create a specific policy, and then another vote on recommending that we establish a specific committee to look at the unassigned fund balance in a joint way, and that was to primarily address Representative Katowski's concerns related to the application of unassigned fund balance after the RTM approved the budget. So just wanted to make the clarification that there were 2 motions, and the committee is separate from the recommendation that the finance committee wanted to move forward. Thank you.
So the first motion is to direct the town council to develop a specific policy. Again, we don't, the RTM doesn't have that authority that I know of to tell the town council to amend their policies.
Right. So,
Madam Clerk, could you just weigh in on this for us, please?
Madam Moderator, if I may.
I just want to hear from the town clerk first.
Okay,
Thank you.
so the motion that Representative Gauthier was referring to, I believe is not subject to a violation to the charter. It would have to be an initiative of the a majority of the 41 members, not those that are present. It's actually a majority of the full membership to use that power of initiative. And that would be in a form of a resolution to have them, have the RTM direct, in a resolution to form this committee, and they can modify the resolution or adopt it. But that's my understanding from based on the town attorney's opinion of power of initiative.
So it would be under power of initiative, and is that a simple majority of 41?
Sorry, this is John. It is not considered a power of initiative. What's being asked cannot be done under that, because that would be changing the charter. Once you do a power of initiative, you're telling the council you have to do this, which would be in conflict with the charter. The directions from the attorneys would be the council can just ignore it then. This is not a power of initiative. Plus the motion out of finance committee was not power of initiative.
Representative Gauthier?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. I believe perhaps it wasn't read correctly, but it is a recommendation and not a power of initiative coming out of the Finance Committee. And the recommendation for the creation of a policy is separate from the recommendation to create a committee. They're both just recommendations. Neither are power of initiative. Neither are directing the council to do anything. Thank you.
So may I ask, Madam Moderator, this sounds as though it would be a letter written by those that are voting for this to recommend that the council adopt a policy on their own. And then the second measure is the moderator to form a committee and ask council members to also participate with the Finance Committee initiative.
It seems like the letter would probably be better to be written before we vote on it. So I guess I would send that back to finance if that's their desire to have this letter or recommendation. It should be written out so that it can be read and then discussed and then voted on at our next meeting. So I shall pass that on to Chair Washington when she returns. Representative Flax.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just to follow up on what the minutes that were said and what was said in the meeting, and to understand where I was coming from, at least, was that as she had said, that there was a the RTM, when the council wants to spend more than $10,000, they have to go to the RTM to get approval. And for last year's budget process, and I think for future budget processes, we need to understand it and discuss it, that there were many people, at least in the Republican caucus, who were looking squarely at the fact of whether or not there was going to be a tax increase for the taxpayers. And when we sent the budget back to the council, as they presented to us with a 0% increase in the taxes, and then after we were done, as the financial arm, after we were done, they made the adjustment to pull rainy day fund as applied to the budget and created a tax increase for the taxpayers. It just, I understand that it's in the purview to adjust the revenue. And I think in past councils, at least the ones that I was always on, there was always an option to apply the fund balance to lower the mill rate, but it had never been pulled back to increase the mill rate. And so when that was done, it kind of raised some red flags that the RTM, from my understanding, is the financial arm and who the taxpayers turn to for the budget and to ensure, how it finally ends up. And so because we don't have that power with respect to them, the revenue side of things, that to have a discussion with the town council, to have an understanding so that maybe, it's all kind of put out there in the open, and it's true. They don't have to be beholden to it because the charter says otherwise, but just under a good faith discussion from that standpoint, that's what we were coming from. So just to clarify.
Thank you, Representative Flax. Representative Foster.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So Representative Gauthier made the recommendation in terms of using the power of initiative. That was amended in terms of not using a power of initiative and just to make a recommendation to the town council to initiate some policy in regards to the unassigned fund balance. It wasn't specific. It wasn't anything other than that. It was just the RTM would make a recommendation to come up with a policy so that we would know the framework that they were working in. So I don't think a letter is required. It's just the sole recommendation is to have some kind of policy so we know what they're going to do with that fund. And that's it. Thank you.
So, okay. So it's not a letter that is being requested. It's a statement from the RTM. Oh, is that correct, Representative Foster?
That was my understanding of what we voted on in the Finance Committee, and anybody else that was a part of that meeting can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was just to make a recommendation that there's some policy on what to do with the unassigned fund balance.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of, if there's a action for us to take tonight, if you're asking for a sentence to be sent to them, or is it a question, or is it, and maybe what we need is a motion on the floor so that I have a better sense of what this is. Let's see, I think I unfortunately took Representative Whitehouse's hand down, so sorry. Representative Whitehouse, you have the floor.
I'll get my fingers over the camera. There we go. Yeah, so my concern in this conversation I'm hearing is when there's that kind of uncertainty, I'm concerned, and this is in some ways I'm saying this if there's any town council members who are watching. If the RTM is guessing what the town council is going to do and concerned that they're going to raise taxes instead of use fund balance or whatever, then they may be more conservative in making decisions. So CIP may get pushed off that would otherwise be approved out of fear of what might happen. So I think there's a benefit to the whole process for everyone if there's clarity, whatever their process is, for them to share, this is what we're going to do. If it's this much, we're going to do this, or whatever their thinking is, to share that in advance so we're not guessing and and possibly guessing in such a way that we say, well, we don't know how they're going to fund it, so let's just push it off to next year because who knows what's going to happen. I think the clarity, whether it's from a letter or whatever the mechanism is extremely important in making this process functional and lets us make the best choices for the taxpayers and for the residents of the town.
Representative Stevenson.
Thank you.
Representative Stevenson.
Yeah, sorry, just trying to get the video going. Yes, this is my basement. Yeah, I don't see why we're wasting time discussing this when it's the charter is clear as day, black and white. This is all just a silly conversation. If you want to make these changes, then push for a charter change. Like, why are we wasting time discussing this? Sending motions to the town council, why would they make this change?
Well, point of order.
Point of order? You have a point of order. Why are we still discussing this? There's nothing being voted on. I moved the question. I know we do.
Representative Foster, what was your point of order on?
Sorry, I mean we've issued recommendations from this body before. It's not that we haven't done that in the past, with whether it was regarded with safety in the city or it had to do with the way that we were handling the police. So I don't understand why we can't make a recommendation.
That's not clearly defined in the charter, though. You're talking about something that's already in the charter.
Point well taken. Thank you. Representative Stevenson, are you done or did you have more?
I have nothing more to say.
Thank you. Representative Gauthier, you wish to speak again?
Yes, if that's allowed, Madam Moderator.
Your second and last time.
Sure. So I want to make 2 points. First, the town attorney indicated that he did not have a specific or formal opinion about the power of initiative resolution that was presented to the Finance Committee at the time and hasn't been able to get one back to us since. And because of the confusion and because of whether or not we don't know if the Finance Committee would like to write a formal letter along with the recommendation that was voted on, I'm asking a procedural question now. Is there a way that we can table this or move it back to committee for further tweaking? Madam Moderator.
Well, it could be postponed. And just to be clear, the action of the Finance Committee wouldn't on its own move to the town council. It would come through this body.
Right.
So I'm happy to, the Finance Committee's meeting on the 22nd. So perhaps a little more clarity in what the Finance Committee was intending at their last meeting would be helpful, from my point of view at least, so that if we have a tangible motion, we can consider it's written out and it's written to, recommend something. I don't, trying to think, when we did the Civilian Oversight Research Committee, that was compiling a pretty well documented research, effort that was given to the town council. What they did with it was their business. In fact, they voted not to do anything with it, from what I have learned. But that we cannot compel the town council to basically change things that are in the charter. I believe that's Representative Stevenson's point, which is, I believe, also confirmed by the town lawyers. So, working within the constraints of the legal decision, I guess if the Finance Committee wished to take this on and come back with a more tangible course of action that could, result in a motion that would be deliberated by this body at the next meeting, that would be acceptable to me.
Would I be able to clarify my point, please?
Yes.
So once again, not directing the council to do anything, merely a recommendation, but procedurally, since there's a motion on the floor, would we need folks to rescind their motion and their second?
We don't have any motion on the floor at this time.
Okay, my mistake then. Thank you.
I was unclear. There are two motions embedded in that we haven't discussed that were embedded in the minutes. We haven't had a motion on the floor of this body for either of those. We dealt with the first portion of the minutes with the grant, accepting the grant. And then there are two I haven't, as I suggested, I have the power to make committees, and I will consider what to do. I'm not going to do it right now. I will communicate with the mayor and see what her preference is. I cannot compel the town council to create a joint committee with the RTM. As I suggested, I reached out over another issue and that didn't work out. So I have no power over the town council as moderator. And this RTM has, again, we have power through the power of initiative, and that's limited and constrained and does not include changing the way our budget is produced. So I will defer the second part of the minutes, since there's no motion on the floor, about making a committee to myself and come back to you next month with what I'll do. And I will ask the finance committee to, if they so wish, to come up with a more tangible course of action that they can present to this body at our next meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Thank you, Representative Flax. You're recognized and thanked for that. So that would, I believe that item on our agenda is completed unless there's someone who believes we should still discuss this finance committee meeting. And if not, we really are kind of rolling into item K on our agenda, which is budget discussion. Madam Clerk. Did you raise your hand? No, maybe not. Sorry, trying to.
The RTM will be receiving the budget on or before the 15th of March. So, your next meeting is March 10th. So this is all working just fine if you want to review, since you referred that back to the committee.
Okay. They are having a meeting on February 22nd. So I believe I'm going to be in discussions with the floor leaders to, think about the structure of these budget discussions. And I would just ask all members who have opinions about how the budget, the RTM's role in the budget should play out, should talk to their floor leader, their respective floor leader, and we can hopefully come to a structure that's amenable. Last year, I think everyone lived through it, except a few folks who just were recently appointed. We had basically decided that if things were not changed in committee from the town council number, that there would be one number moved. And that was true except for a bridge in Mystic, in Old Mystic. So we had basically a marathon session where we had one number moved. And then we spent a lot of time, an equal almost amount of time, talking about a bridge in the CIP. So that was last year. Not sure it was probably the most efficient way for the RTM to, control the budget, which is what we're supposed to do. So please think about it, reach out to your floor leaders, and we can, it's unlikely we'll be meeting in person. I'll just put it that way for this budget season, unless, something really miraculous happens. But I find Zoom to be, it's not dissimilar from being in a meeting with you. So I think we're getting better at these meetings. And I think that should be fine interface for us. Are there any, and does anyone want to wish to speak on the item K? No, is there any other business anyone wishes to address? Madam Clerk?
Sorry, I'm sorry that I didn't mention this under your communications, but we do still have a vacancy in the 3rd district, and I am expecting a resignation from the 2nd district. I don't want to complicate things, but I don't have that resignation yet, so. Oh, yes, Representative Washington's back. Now we have 30 members again.
All right, and Representative Cecilia Fleming left though, I believe. All right, so so now we know about vacancies. So at this point, since I don't hear any desire to discuss budget structure or budget anything or other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Adams.
Second, Foster.
We have a motion to adjourn made by Representative Adams and seconded by Representative Foster. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Be safe, and I'll see you in March. And be well.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.